Yes. Okay. And we are recording today's session. And let me uh, share my screen with you guys. So give me 1 second. Okay. So can you guys see my screen? The first slide, it's Missouri Long-Term Care Ombudsman,
Yes.
educate and empower. Okay, great. So if there's any issue, again, don't hesitate. Just stop me and let me know. Okay. So this is our refresher training for the re-entry to your nursing homes, and then we're going to go through some information here. So let's start with ombudsman roles and responsibilities, and I think you guys know that. I'm not gonna really repeat. So you are advocating for nursing home residents or long-term care residents, and they have any issues, you are on their side. You are not on the facility side. That said, though, if the resident is on the wrong, and then facility, for example, resident doesn't want to pay their rent, and then the facility wants the resident to pay the rent, and resident is like, well, I got credit card to take care of, I got alimony to pay, I got to make car payments, so I'm not gonna pay for my rent here in the nursing home. Then sure, your position, where you come from, is that you understand what they are saying. Doesn't matter you agree or not, but you need to talk to the resident about, well, then there's a consequence that if you don't pay your rent, just like any one of us, we don't pay our rent, we don't pay our mortgage, there will be consequences. So they need to understand that consequence, and then if they still choose not to pay, then the nursing home certainly can issue a discharge letter to kick them out. Now that discharge letter, when it comes to this kind of non-payment, they owe rent to the nursing home, the discharge letter can be only 30-day discharge. It is not an emergency discharge. Okay, they cannot be kicked out right away. It has to be 30 days, and the ombudsman office, our office, has to receive a copy of the discharge letter, and then tell them to not give the discharge letter to you. Okay, the ombudsman office has to receive that discharge letter in order for the discharge letter to be valid. If we don't have a copy, that discharge is not valid. Okay, and let's say, even if a resident is on the wrong, and do they have a right to appeal that discharge? The answer is yes. They always have a right to appeal whatever decisions that the nursing home makes. Okay, so that's one.
Jen, I have a question real fast before you go off this page.
Sure.
The first line up here, regular presence visits.
Okay.
Are we supposed to schedule our visits with the client, not with the facility?
Very good question.
And I thought in the past we could go anytime we wanted to go into the facility, like if we wanted to go in the morning or if we wanted to go in the afternoon, just not, just randomly. Am I wrong with this now?
No, you are not wrong, and you are absolutely correct. So ombudsman program is a federally mandated program. We have absolutely every right to enter anytime we want, and that you tell them or not. That's not a problem here. Now, the reason the state put a schedule visits ahead of time and call facility the day of your visit, the reason they put a policy here, that is simply because of COVID. So while there is still COVID going around in this world, they want to kind of make sure that you kind of call ahead, you kind of schedule. So when as long as there's COVID, we are not gonna do an announced visit. Okay, so just call ahead and then make sure that as of today, as of right now, there is no COVID breakout in your facility, and then they confirm, yes, that's correct, that there's no COVID in our facility. Then yes, then move on with your visit. Okay.
Thanks.
So yeah, so that.
Yes. Chin, to follow on that, does Voice have a guideline if we're going into the patient or the resident's rooms? So, do you want us to be wearing full PPE, or I've been visiting them in the lobby or the library?
Yeah. So on that, I would say that it's, let's say there's no policy to say that you are not to visit residence room. There's no such a policy. However, I would recommend that, as a better practice, probably you want to meet them, somewhere quiet. You want to meet them, in the library. You want to meet them at a quiet corner of their dining room. You want to meet them in the conference room. All of that is fine. But of course, you're gonna encounter the people, residents that are bedbound. They cannot bring the residents out to the conference room. Sure. Now, Jerry, then that would be your judgment call, including, well, then do I visit the resident, who is bedbound in their room? And also when I go into the room, do I put on my gown and then my gloves? That would be your judgment call. How do you feel comfortable doing that? Now, that said, I don't know about you guys' vaccination status, but if that was me, then when I'm gonna get my second shot in a week, and then after my second shot, then I would say I'm gonna feel pretty comfortable that I go in, and then without worrying about me contracting COVID. However, don't just think about ourselves. Also, you want to think about to protect your residents, right? Of course, you want to think about yourself, but you also want to think about your residents. Now, if your county, Lincoln County, if they are not too many COVID cases, and then you want to go into a residence room, then sure, I can, that's fine. Keep in mind though, bring more than just 1 or 2 masks with you. And my recommendation is that if you go into a residence room, when you come out, probably throw away that mask right away and then put on a new one. Okay. And on that, remember, I think, Jerry, you got a lot of masks. You came by the office the other day to get a lot of masks, right?
I got a few. Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm fine on masks.
Okay, good. So don't wear if you have a fabric mask, don't wear those when you go to a nursing home. You need to wear those disposable medical masks that you get from the office, so that, and then when you go in, you put on a new mask. When you come out, don't bring that mask back to your car. Just throw it away the moment you get out of the building. Okay, use those medical masks that are disposable. That said, the reason we are doing that, because that your medical masks, they are protecting both sides, your end and also the resident's end. Okay, so they're protecting both sides. But if you wear your fabric mask, then that protects the residents because your droplets won't come out of your mask. However, the residents' droplets, they might come in through your mask to you, okay? So if you wear fabric, that only protects the residents. That does not protect you necessarily. So you want to wear those medical masks, okay? Are we good, Jerry?
Good.
Okay, wonderful. So I'm gonna keep going. So 5 categories of ombudsman services, and you guys can read this. I'm not gonna read through this for you, and which, by the way, we have about 62 slides to go through, and then I'm gonna get through them in today's session. I'm not gonna have 2 sessions. Okay, so documentation, that is very important. Why do you have to have documentation? Because if you don't have documentation, there's no way to track what we have done for the residents. And that's one thing. We need to have those numbers. We need to have the documents to support this program, to tell people that, to tell the state government, to tell the federal government that, hey, look, this is our documentation. This is our numbers. This is what we do. And we show you how much work we've done for you. Now, that's one thing. The second layer of this documentation, the reasoning, is that, well, you dealt with a case 3 months ago, and then you are gonna, and 3 months later, the same resident, same issue, and you might, so you thought, well, let me go back 3 months ago to look at my documentation. Sure, then that would refresh your memories. What you did, or what happened 3 months ago. If you don't have those documentations, we are all forgetful. We will not remember that what we did 3 months ago. Well, I can say that about myself. I don't remember what I did yesterday. So you need to have those documentations. Okay. So confidentiality. So scenario discussion. Let's see if we want to discuss about this scenario. So during a visit, 2 residents tell you that they would like to have water available, but no one brings it when they ask. They are afraid to ask again and say that it must be an oversight because staff are always rushed. Okay, so they do not want to complain anymore. As you continue your visit, you notice that the several other residents who cannot get out of bed do not have water at their bedside tables. Some of the residents cannot communicate with you. You do not see any staff filling containers or distributing water while you are visiting. So what would you do? So Teresa, what would you do?
I would and have gone and said there were a number of residents that mentioned a certain problem. And that way you don't have to give a specific name. Sometimes they ask and I'll say, well, it was on wing 3 or something like that. But you don't have to give a resident's name if you just make it a general thing. And that's why I sometimes like to go into the dining room when you got 4 of them sitting together at a table and one will say, this happened to me. Oh yeah, that happened to me too. And then you have a group and it makes it easier to go and give that complaint to whoever.
Yeah, very good. No wonder you are experienced. You are with us for 26, 27 years. So,
I've learned some tricks along the way.
Very good. Thank you so much, Teresa. So yes, that is exactly what we do. So when it comes to this kind of complaint, we always want to kind of keep in mind that there might be retaliation, even though these staff, they're all nice people, all of them, right? Don't ever minimize that kind of possibility of retaliation. Therefore, when it comes to a complaint like this, you can make it as general as possible. Well, several residents mentioned same issue, and you want to know the name. Well, actually, I cannot give you the names. I did not get residents' consent to give you the names. And on top of that, also, you will encounter those residents that are nonverbal. They cannot speak to you. So ombudsman, very important. We need to use our eyes, our ears to observe. And then you can observe, well, do they have water by their bedside? You can observe that, do they have really long nails and messy hair? And you can observe that if their room smells, if they have really dirty clothing, they were wearing last week or 2 weeks ago. So use your observation skills, and so you can resolve issues that way. You don't necessarily have to get their consent to deal with this kind of issues. However, for some cases, you do have to have their consent. For example, Mrs. Jones comes to tell you that, well, the nurse Mary, was very, very mean to me, and then she yelled at me, and then she was very rude. She grabbed my arms, and then my arms hurt. So you are gonna have to first have Mrs. Jones' consent and to deal with this nurse Mary's issue. But if you don't have the consent from her, say Mrs. Jones is afraid that there will be retaliation, then sure, then you can tell Mrs. Jones that, well, without your consent, we cannot disclose your information. But can I just make your concerns or your complaints in a kind of make it known in a very, very general way. So like the way we did about the water earlier, same thing. So make it as general as possible, so that people don't get retaliated against. And also, there's a different way that maybe Nurse Mary is mean to the residents. You go talk to the director of nursing, the DON, and then say that, well, I've heard some rumors through the grapevine that some of your nurses, don't name the names, okay? Some of the nurses are not very professional, and they are being mean and rude to the residents. Maybe it's time to do a refresher training with your staff, and to refresh their memories about their professionalism. Okay, so that would be one way to do it. And so that said, it is very, very important to get the residents' consent. But residents would always worry that if it's gonna come back to bite me in the behind, of course. And so we always need to keep that in mind. Okay. In the meantime, nursing home, this doesn't really happen often, but it did happen before. So nursing home, they might say that, well, Teresa, I want to see the documentation, your notes. And then probably Susan wouldn't do that, to ask for the documentation. What do you say about that?
My first administrator asked me that, and the answer is no, that I cannot share our notes with them.
Correct. You cannot share the notes with them. So give me.
And neither can you. No. At the office, right?
No.
Okay.
No. So June has a question here. I always go to the nurse in charge. That would be the DO, and then kindly to tell her about it. And if no results, I go to the DON, the director of nursing. So far, most times I've had results before I leave. The water is so important. Yes, I agree with you, June. Yeah. And also, talking about that documentation, and then your nursing home might ask you for the documentation. Well, Gina, I want to see what you write down on your form, because I see that every time, Gina, you come in and then you are writing things down on your paper. So can you share that with us, Gina?
Okay. No. And the point is, I'm there for the resident. The resident's my client. And I need to establish that privacy, that rapport with the client, that I'm not going to be running to every staff person there and complain about the client making a complaint or making a comment.
Yes, correct.
And
thank
then
you.
also, now you just said something, it's also it's a state, right? It's a state rule.
Yes,
we cannot do that.
Yeah, that's correct. In fact, that's more than just a state rule. It is actually a federal policy. Okay. Jerry, what's going your question?
For what it's worth, I sat down with the new administrators this week and showed them my blank forms that I fill out each time I come in. And I walked through the forms with them so they understand up front what I'm looking for.
Okay, very good. That's a very good approach. So
well, now the one guy won't talk to me. So apparently it's like, okay, I tried. He hides.
See? Yeah, exactly.
But at least I wanted to be upfront and let them know what I'm looking for.
Okay, very good, very good. So so now the documents, they are not our property. They are, well, you can of course, ombudsman, we get to keep a copy so that you can kind of follow up, you can kind of track back, of course, but they are not our property. They actually, all of these documentation, it actually belongs to the state. Okay. And so that's the state's property. And to be more specific, it actually is it's actually a part of the entire federal system. So our documentations, they do not belong to just any personal, any person. No, it does not. So if a nursing home, they are asking that, hey, can I see your documentation? The answer is always no. There's no chance you can see that documentation. And if they insist, then let me know, please. And also, if they want to see any documentation within the ombudsman program, they actually will have to subpoena me, which they did several times before, because when there was a lawsuit involved, then they wanted to see the ombudsman program's records. Sure, I understand that they can subpoena me, and then we will go from there. But then when they subpoena me, I don't necessarily turn in everything about that particular case they're looking for. I don't necessarily turn in everything either. So they get to have certain, if any, they get to have certain access about my documentation, but certainly not all of it. And then if I give the documentation to to the lawyers about a lawsuit, there are a lot of things that I will black out so they cannot see. And that's actually the state's policy. Okay. So okay. So confidentiality. So of course, we talked about this confidentiality, and the confidentiality is very, very, very important. Without confidentiality, you cannot deal with any cases. You cannot earn your residents' trust. And but in the meantime, when we talk about confidentiality, we also have to talk about HIPAA, right? HIPAA, that is to protect the residents' medical information. So now, ombudsman program, no matter you are a staff person, you are a volunteer, you are my practicum student within the ombudsman program. As long as you are part of the ombudsman program, keep in mind that the ombudsman program is actually HIPAA exempt. Okay, it does not mean that we don't abide by HIPAA. it actually means that when we have access with residents' consent to actually look at residents' medical information, protected medical information. So we are HIPAA exempt. Okay, that's what that means. But in the meantime, when you get to actually see residents' medical info, don't ever bring that out of the facility, okay? And then because you cannot, HIPAA exempt doesn't mean that you can just share whatever you got about resident with other people. No, don't do that, okay? But keep in mind, we are a HIPAA exempt program, okay? So, question about that? Everything good? Okay. So, confidentiality, okay. Empowering residents for self-advocacy. And self-advocacy, of course, let me see, there's a pop quiz here. So our residents console allowed with the limitation of the COVID has, yes, resident consoles are allowed, and not only allowed, it is encouraged, okay? And there's a way to do it when the COVID was still, very active. And there's a way to do it in a 6 feet apart, wear your mask, and then or even doing virtual, all of it. Okay, so now let's see, empowering. So of course, ombudsman program. The nature of the ombudsman program is to advocate. It's advocacy. And then a big part of the advocacy work is to educate. So for example, your resident rights, if you don't educate residents, they don't know they have whatever right, okay? So for example, resident might not know that they have the right to refuse treatment, to refuse medications, to refuse activities. They have absolutely every right to refuse just basically anything. Okay. The problem though, if you don't educate them, they don't know they have that right. But in the meantime, I'm a resident. Well, now Jerry's educated me about I have the right to refuse. And guess what, Jerry? I'm gonna refuse to go on my dialysis that I go to 3 times a week, because every time after dialysis I feel like crap. I just, it's painful to go through dialysis, and I've been doing dialysis, for the past 30 years already. So is that still my right to refuse dialysis? And yes, that is my right. However, Jerry, then you need to let this resident know that while it is your right to refuse your treatment, including dialysis, you will also need to know there's consequences, and the consequences that you are gonna die. Okay, so that would be the problem. So and they are adults, and let's say if they are their own if they are their own responsible party, they get to make a harmful decision. You don't have to agree, but you have to support. Okay.
And do we say you're going to die, or do we say to the facility, then they will go and speak with them and point out the consequences of, dialysis? I mean,
well,
am I qualified to say, hello, if you don't do this, you're going to die?
Well, good question. Good question. You actually can, yeah, that's true. You actually can say that, but then the problem is that well, I might not have enough medical education like Teresa yourself, because Teresa is a nurse, and then Teresa can give very detailed information about you don't receive dialysis and whatnot, and probably I can't. But what I can do though is that, well, Mary, if you stop doing dialysis, and I understand that's painful, Mary, if you don't do dialysis, that there's a great chance that you will die. I can actually say that, but find a kind of a gentle way to say, but which I don't know how to say, you're gonna die in a gentle way.
You could also reference the fact that their doctor would reinforce that.
Yeah. Now,
But
Jerry,
I
thank
think-
you.
I think I would say that certainly is your choice.
Mhm.
I understand where you're coming from, all that, but then I think I would say, but let me have someone come and talk to you and explain,
Sure.
Or would you like to have someone come and talk to you and explain what's going on? And then
Mhm.
let the nurses and them, rather than me, a volunteer off the street.
This would be
Mhm.
excellent if we could get Heather, and once Heather gets established, and if the state would allow you to have a permanent full-time mental health worker, I think that would be an excellent opportunity.
Yeah, I mean,
for somebody like that.
I don't think I ever tell residents, well, that drug does this and this and that for you.
Mhm.
I mean, hello, it's a blood pressure. I don't want to take my blood pressure medicine anymore. I said, well, that it's important to keep that. But I don't say, well, it's an ACE inhibitor and it does this and do.
Yeah.
Because
Well,
I'm the ombudsman
mhm.
and I am them, for one thing.
True. And then, so I would say this also has things to do with everyone's comfort level.
Well, that's true.
Right.
Mhm.
To kind of educate them to what degree, to what point. And but here is actually another thing that you can say. So let's say, okay, again, dialysis. Okay. So if someone does not get dialysis, and then they're gonna get sick first, and then they are probably gonna be in a coma for a while, and then they're gonna die. But here's the thing. So you can actually talk to the residents or have the medical staff talk with the residents and explain this entire process to them, and also make sure they understand this, that once they fall into a coma, that they just cannot voice their wishes and whatnot, then at that point a nursing home will actually have to send them to the ER, to the hospital. Now, in a hospital, it is a different ballgame, because the hospitals, they do not have to abide by nursing home regulation, because it is not a nursing home. A hospital, they have their own policy in their medical world. Therefore, you come in, you are in a coma, guess what? Oh, we figure out because you are in a coma because you have too much toxics in your blood, and then that's the reason you're in a coma. But that's because you did not get dialyzed. So we're gonna give you dialysis. We're gonna put you on that dialysis machine. And then in the hospital, then these residents, then they don't actually get to say no when they're in the hospital. Okay, so that's a different kind of policy, different kind of world. Yeah. I'm sorry.
Can't you say no in the hospital?
Now that's another layer, because let's say
that's my exit strategy.
Yeah. Because let's say if they have a very, very detailed medical directives, and then that, power of attorney, exercising their right and all of that. So we will talk about that. That's another different layer to it. Okay. So then, okay, I'm gonna go for another different example. Okay. A different example is that, let's say a psych patient, a severe schizophrenic patient. So a psych patient, well, I don't want to take that medication because that medication makes me feel I'm not myself. Okay, fine. You don't have to take that medication. That is that. Let's say if in this case a guardian does not get involved. Okay, and then a patient can of course refuse to take their medication, their psych meds. And then if you don't take your psych meds, what's going to happen? You are going to start acting out. That's what's going to happen. And then you are starting to act out to the point that when your nursing home cannot handle you, when your nursing home cannot manage to keep you there, they are going to send you to a psych ward. And then keep in mind, once you are in a psych ward, that is not a nursing home. They do not need to follow, they do not have to follow the nursing home guidance to honor your wishes of not taking the meds. So they are gonna force the medications into your throat. And then, so that becomes kind of a vicious circle that, well, you know, you get stabilized in a psych ward because they force meds into your throat. Okay, fine. Then 4 weeks later, 3 weeks later, once you are stable, you go back to the nursing home, and then the nursing home will respect your meds. Then you say you don't want, will respect your rights. And when you say you don't want to take your psych meds, and then 2 weeks later you are acting crazy, and then they send you to the hospital, and then you get stabilized again. So now that becomes a vicious circle there. And so you know, talking about residents, the ultimate advocacy is for residents to advocate for themselves. But keep in mind that there are some residents that they cannot reach that point. There's no way for them to reach that point, that self-advocacy point. Therefore, ombudsman, we are always needed. We are there for people, that to educate people to reach that goal. However, also know that there are a lot of residents that they can never reach that self-advocacy. Never. Okay. So overcoming. Okay. So at education, explanation, and encouraging, and all of that. So we got that. And now look at this. Look at the bullet point, the second bullet point from the bottom. So explaining how to file effective complaint with DHS, that's Department of Health and Senior Services. That is our big boss above us. And the DRL, that's the number, that is the hotline complaint number. That is DRL, that means Division of Regulation and Licensure, DRL. And this is the number, 1-800-392-0210. We have actually a lot of hotline card with this number, big number on the hotline card in the office. So if you need some, let me know, or let any rocks know, and then you can get some, and then you can give them out to the residents. Now, talking about to file complaints, DRL is not for us to call. Okay, we are the last resort. We are the last person to call DRL. Okay. So you can encourage the residents to call, encourage the resident's family to call, or even encourage the resident's roommate to call. You can even ask, you know, the facility to call. A lot of times, talk with the social workers, because a lot of times social workers, they have a conscience. They know whatever whatever the nursing home is doing, it is not right. It is unethical. So encourage the social workers to call. And we, however, we are not the one to call though. Okay, if you feel this case is so serious, so severe, that we need to get involved by calling the state surveyors, the DRL, then let me know, and then we will talk about it. And then a lot of times when I talk with DRL, with the state surveyors at, you know, for St. Louis, that's Region 7, a lot of times when I talk to them, it is not about the, you know, usually not about the residents, the residents issue. It is about the nursing home having a violation. And then I keep seeing nursing homes violation over and over again. I keep correcting them, and then there's no result. Then I finally I'm fed up. Then I talk with DRL, and then for DRL to intervene. That's how I usually get them involved. Okay. So this is still self-advocacy, and then overcome barriers. Okay, so these are all about the self-advocacy. Scenario. I'm not gonna do this scenario. I'm gonna go to the resident consent. So develop this into let this become your habit. Okay, so every time when a resident talks to you, always asks, do I have your consent to share? Do I have, even though that's a good thing? Well, I was very happy that the entire staff and residents there, they were celebrating my birthday yesterday. I'm so happy. And the staff there, they did a fantastic job, and then let me know that I mean a lot to them. Okay, so it's a good thing. Still, make that as a habit. So Mrs. Jones, do I have your consent to share your joy with other people, with people I know? Okay, so do I have your consent to tell the staff that they've done a wonderful job throwing you a birthday party? Okay, so good thing, have their consent. Bad thing, also have their consent, and see if you have their consent, their agreement for you to help them deal with it. Okay, so always ask for consent. And then a lot of times they need your assurance that, well, Mrs. Jones, don't worry, even with your consent, that for me to deal with this. But if you are telling me that I am allowed to deal with your complaint for you, but I'm not allowed to share your names, then I'm not going to share your name, but I will deal with your consent for you. I mean, deal with your complaints for you, okay, without disclosing your name. That you can always assure them that. Now, if they are curious that how are you gonna help me with my complaint without sharing my name, there's a way, just like earlier when we discussed about the water thing. Okay, you can always make it as a kind of a general statement to the facility. You can share how you are going to deal with their complaint about with the resident. Okay, sure. Consent now. They can always withdraw their consent too. Okay, so well, last time when I talked with Jerry, I felt it was okay for Jerry to kind of voice my concerns and whatnot. But then today, when I get up, I think about it. Jerry, I'm gonna call you. I'm gonna say, hey, Jerry, guess what? I am not comfortable for you to deal with my complaints for me. So I'm gonna revoke. I'm gonna withdraw my consent. Keep in mind, they always have that right to withdraw their consent. Okay, and then one step. Then I'm gonna take one more step forward, and that is that. So in Missouri, a verbal consent is just legally equals a written consent. So a verbal and a written, they are the same. Okay, they're, as long as they can give you a consent, by saying, hey, Jerry, yeah, you have my consent to deal with my problem for me, then that's verbal, that counts. So verbal is just the same as written. However, when it's a verbal consent, then Jerry, you're gonna need to document that. So on March the 26th, residents consent, residents verbal consent received, something like that on your documentation. Just short sentence, short and sweet. That's good enough. Okay.
Jen, I have a question about this.
Sure.
Let's say you're talking to a resident and they have a complaint and you ask, well, can I talk to somebody about it? Can I talk to the DON or the administrator, the dietary? And they say yes, you document it. They tell you the next day that maybe they call you or call the office to have the ombudsman call them, and they say they've thought about what they were saying and they don't want us to say anything, but we have already said something.
So
and then of course you would tell the resident, well, I've already mentioned it, blah, blah, blah. Then what if the resident turns around and says, well, I didn't, and then we'll go to you or the staff and say, I did not give her permission to say anything. I just kind of said, well, maybe I will. Maybe that's a good idea or something like that, but I did not actually give that information. What does the ombudsman do then? What is the
So your first step, when they withdraw their consent, then you can just explain to them that, well, I already talked with so and so yesterday, because my impression from yesterday was that you already gave me your consent, but now you want to withdraw your consent. Then what you will need to do, Gina, is to make a note on yesterday's report to say that today residents consent withdrawn. But you also want to make a note to say that you explained to the resident that things were already done. But then you can also add another line to say that, but you made resident known that if there's any retaliation actions against her or him, then you want resident to immediately let you know. Okay, so you kind of want to, people are allowed to change their mind, but then when that kind of mind changing, that kind of decision change, when that happens, you kind of need to document that.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Questions? Are we good? Okay. So this is also talk about the consent. Okay. So resident consent, this is talking about let's say when there is a power of attorney, when there is with someone who is not their own decision maker. In other words, someone is not their own responsible party, or someone has a guardian. Okay. So I'm gonna talk a little bit about the guardian thing, as well as the power of attorney issue. So let's start with a power of attorney. So I created my power of attorney, which actually does not require a lawyer. It does, though, require a notary. Okay, someone, a bank, whatever, they need to notarize that for me in order to make this a legal document. So let's say, well, I know Heather for many years, and then Heather is I know Heather is a trustworthy person, and I think that well, if one day when I cannot make a decision for myself, and Heather will be doing a good job, Heather knows what I want, what I don't want, and then Heather will be making decisions for me. So before I make that, before I create my own power of attorney paperwork, I'm gonna tell Heather that, hey, are you comfortable being my power of attorney? And then Heather's like, yeah, sure, of course. And then I'm gonna put Heather's name down. So Heather doesn't even need to sign on my paperwork, but Heather will actually have to be kept aware about the fact that she is gonna be on my power of attorney paperwork, which, by the way, when Heather becomes the potential decision maker on my power of attorney paperwork, then Heather is not my power of attorney, because power of attorney, that means papers, power of attorney, that is papers. Okay, Heather is my potential decision maker, then there's a term for that. The term is called agent. Okay, so Heather is my agent, my decision maker on my power of attorney paperwork. Okay, so So then, so I got everything filled out, and Heather is aware, and then the bank notarized it for me. So now we have this official power of attorney paperwork. So I'm gonna make a copy of this, and then I'm gonna send that to Heather. So are we done? Can Heather start making decisions for me? The answer is no. Okay, because I am still capable. I'm still my own decision maker. So even though that Heather becomes the agent on my power of attorney paperwork, that doesn't mean that the power of attorney is now active. So Heather is not enacted. That is another legal term. It's called enacted. Okay. So how do you enact Heather to become my actual active decision maker? And that will require another step. So another step, that is a doctor's evaluation. Okay. So when a doctor evaluates to say that, well, Chen is now in a coma because he got hit by a bus yesterday, and now he's in a coma, so he cannot make decisions for himself. Then the doctor will put down in writing and say that Chen is now incapacitated. Therefore, that step enacts the power of attorney, so that Heather now is officially my decision maker. Heather can start making decisions for me. Okay, so power of attorney, it takes 2 steps. One is to get that paperwork created. That's a legal paperwork which does not require a lawyer. And then the next step is for a doctor to do a medical, so legal first and then medical later, to do a medical evaluation to make sure that Chen is incapacitated. So that step is gonna enact the power of attorney paperwork, so that the decision making by Heather can start happening. Okay, so that is the power of attorney part. Questions about that?
Yeah, I have a question.
Sure.
Can the nursing home be the power of attorney?
No.
I thought there was a couple of residents at Creve Coeur Manor where the residents
So,
were the power of attorney.
So now that's actually a conflict of interest. Okay, they should not, because here's the problem of that. Because let's say, okay, a social worker is a really good person, and I like the social worker to be my power attorney. But also keep in mind, the social worker is employed by the nursing home. So when it comes to make a decision, how do we make sure this power of attorney person, this agent, also the nursing home social worker, they would be making the decision for the nursing home's benefits or for the residents' benefit? We don't know about that. Okay, because guess what? I would bet this social worker doesn't want to lose their job, right? So that would create a conflict of interest right there. So it is not a good practice for a nursing home person, a professional, to become a power of attorney of a resident. That said, however, there's another thing. It's called payeeship. Okay, payee. So for someone in the nursing home, or for just the nursing home as a whole, to become the payee, P-A-Y-E-E, payee. Okay, what does that mean? That means that this payee is gonna be managing this person, the resident's money. Okay, so let's say Heather is my nursing home's social worker, and then again, I trust Heather, and Heather is great and whatnot, and then but I have apparently I have a problem with drinking and gambling, so then I cannot make my pay my rent. So then Heather is gonna go, well, the gamble and drinking, that's well, in Heather's opinion, that's not a good thing. However, that's not even the point here. The point here is that if I gambled away, all of my money, then I cannot pay the rent. So Heather then say, well, Chen, do you trust me? Sure, I trust you. Okay, then Heather will apply, fill out the forms, and become my payee. Therefore, anything that I need to spend money on, then Heather will have to have approval for it. That's called a payeeship. Okay, so it is okay for a nursing home or nursing home employee to become the payee of a resident, but that's particularly for the money part. Okay, but it is not okay for a nursing home to become the power of attorney. No. Questions?
Chen, I have a question.
Sure.
Let me call you back a bit. Okay. Isn't there another test of, I don't know what the term is. It's like a psychological ability to make their own decisions that the nursing home was talking to me about various residents that rated whatever on the scale, showing they're mentally competent. What is that?
That's oh yeah. Are you talking about the test or the acting on behalf of someone?
No, it's a score that they get on a test to show that they're mentally competent.
Yeah, there are actually several tests of that, and then there's one that could be a lot of nursing homes. What they do is to use a slums test, and that is actually a test to test someone's mental capacity, and then there's a point.
Right, and that's what they've talked about. And can you tell me a little bit about that? I'm not familiar with it.
Yeah, so nursing homes, they are required to do a baseline care plan on a resident 48 hours after their 48 hours after their admission. Okay, and that's their baseline. And then just to make sure that what level of your mental capacity is. And now that's one thing. But for someone who actually has official diagnosis of schizophrenia, then that's another different level, different test. That's called level 2 test. Okay, and then there's an official name of the level 2. I can give you that name in a second. So the level 2 test, it's an initial. It is called P as in Paul. Okay, PASRR. So 2 R's. So PASRR. Okay, so it's so I'm gonna read out the entire name, the full name. The full name is a pre-admission screening and resident review, PASRR. So pre-admission screening and resident review. Okay, this is for residents who have a schizophrenia or schizoaffective, or or severe psych issues. Then they have to complete a level 2, this PASRR evaluation before they are admitted into a nursing home. Okay, so but that's a different story here. So nursing homes, they actually can have their own policy. So once your points are below whatever, then we are actually gonna have to have a closer kind of monitoring process on how you make your decisions, how you manage your money and stuff like that. So I think that might be what Jerry was talking about.
Is that a standardized test that
yes,
there's a certain number on that scale that tips the balance?
Yeah, Yes, there is. Yeah.
I had just a general question.
Sure.
So, the 48 hours after like the care plan and the PASSAR that you're talking about, the level 2, the ombudsman aren't pulling a chart ever. So how are they going to know that kind of information?
So they usually won't. Okay.
Oh,
so,
okay. Okay.
Yeah, because what this is kind of like knowledge that ombudsman will kind of need to know, and then ombudsman will actually have to know a lot, things like this. But let's say if Mrs. Jones actually is schizophrenia or has schizophrenia, or Mrs. Jones did prior to her admission, was there a level 2 that needed to be done? You won't know. Okay, so until, okay, I'll tell you this story. I had a resident 5 years ago, and this resident, she was actually a social worker, and then she actually went to WashU Brown School, but she graduated way before I did. So this resident later on, she started having MS, and then she was not able to take care of herself. So she then got admitted into a nursing home, and so then she loved writing, and then she started a like a blog, and then she wrote a lot of articles and whatnot to talk about her feelings, to talk about her life in nursing home and so on and so forth, which was great because I love reading her writing. She was a great writer until this one time she wrote this story about her privacy was severely intruded. Okay, so someone got into her room while she was on the toilet, and then someone was being very mean and very rude to her, and so on and so forth. And then someone handled her, like put her in bed, very rude, and got bruises and whatever. And then she was crying all day long. So she was writing this story, and she sent this story to many people, including some of our board members. So then that created an issue because the board member read the story, and the board member was like, wow, that's certainly just such a horrible thing. And then they wanted me to investigate. So then I went to the nursing home, I talked to her, and then she gave me this entire story and basically what she said in the post, in the story. And then I interviewed the nursing home administrator, the nursing home's social worker, their director of nursing, and that particular shift that those people, the nurses, the nurse aides, and so on and so forth. I interviewed all of them. I literally can see the confusion in their face because they literally did not know anything about this incident. Okay, so then I was really puzzled. I was like, how did this happen? I don't understand. So then I talked with another social worker. They got several social workers, and then I talked with another social worker who has been there for a lot longer than the rest of the social workers. So then she told me that, well, I think this particular resident, I remember I saw in her chart that she actually is schizophrenic. That was very well controlled, very well managed, but she actually is schizophrenic. And then throughout these many years that she's been in the nursing home, not very often, but sometimes she's got hallucinations. about things that did not happen. So then sure enough, ombudsman, I have the access to, we are HIPAA exempt. I have the access to the residence chart. So of course I asked the resident that, hey, is that okay for me to look at your chart? Sure. And then she's like, well, of course, there's nothing for me to hide. So I looked at her chart, and sure enough, she actually has an official diagnosis of schizophrenia. So that actually kind of explained to me that that incident that she believed it happened, while in other people's reality, it did not happen. Okay, so now that is the kind of a story as an answer to Heather's question. So how do we know this their medical information, and how do we know if they need to do a level 2? Well, we don't until when something happens, and then that kind of triggers, maybe it's time to kind of take a look at their medical chart. Okay, so did that answer the question? Okay, good. So investigation and verification, that's good that we were just talking about that case, because verification, that is very, very important, because keep in mind that the residents, not every one of them, however, a lot of residents' reality, that is not necessarily our reality. Okay, so I am certainly not saying that they are lying or they are making things up. No, that's not it. And of course, you would encounter those cases too. Okay, but a lot of times people are in a nursing home for a reason. The reason could be physical, the reason could be medical, the reason could be psychological or mental. Okay, or maybe all of them. Therefore, your investigation will always require a verification process, and you need to verify if that incident actually happened. And how do you verify that? Well, different kind of process. You talk with everyone, talk with the roommate, talk with whatnot, and talk with the staff people, and then even look at their shifts. And then if the resident says that, well, last night between 2 and 3, there was a black CNA that came into my room, and then he was very loud, very rude to me, and he was very disrespectful. Now, you then look at the last night's shift, and then turn out it was all white ladies in that hall. There was no black CNA, black male CNA. So you can verify that through a lot of different steps. Okay, verification, very, very important. Okay. So, complaint investigation, verification. Okay. Planning, intervention, and resolution. So, planning, especially when we still have COVID around, we need to plan our visit. So until further notice, ombudsman, unfortunately, right now, you're gonna have to kind of check in to make sure that there's no COVID breakout, and then it is still okay for you to go in. Okay, and intervention, that I don't have to talk about that. A lot of these intervention, it is a one-on-one talk. It is a care plan. That's all good. That's all intervention. So there's one thing that I need to clarify a little bit. So talking about the care plan that I talked about earlier. So I forgot to mention this part. So when a resident is first admitted to a nursing home, they must do a baseline care plan, and that baseline care plan, it does not require all the, you know, the social workers, nurses, and administrators, and kitchen, and the activity. No, it's just the minimum kind of the nurse and the social worker. That's enough, or even just a nurse. That's enough. The baseline care plan is to do those the slums test that Jerry and I talked about earlier, and to do the blood pressure, to go through the medical records, and all of that. That has to be done within 48 hours after the admission, within 48 hours. And then that's the baseline that, you know, in other words, the baseline of your initial admission to this home, that has to be done, okay? And then after that, a individual care planning, ICP, that's how they call care plan right now. It's an individual care planning, ICP, because here's the funny reason for that, because they thought, the federal government, they thought, well, you know, just say care plan. That sounds so medical, so clinical. We don't like that. Okay, we want to change the name. So the name they come up with is ICP, individual care planning. So I'm sure that's not medical at all. Yeah. So individual care planning, it has to be done with every resident once every 3 months. So every resident has their own individual care plan once every 3 months. In other words, every resident has 4 routine care plans a year, okay, once every 3 months. Now, can they, let's say, well, this is not my care plan time because I just got my care plan done last month in February, but guess what? Right now in March, I have a lot of issues about the care that I receive, by the services that I receive. Can I do a care plan right now? The answer is always yes. Okay, the answer is always yes. You can request to have extra care plans other than those routine quarterly care plan. And now that could be the resolution of the concerns, of the complaints care plan, because what's better than just have every involved party to come together to talk about the issues. Okay. Heather, do you have a question?
Yeah, I don't want to monopolize or anything. Just so is DHSS going out for the 4 times a year?
No, DHSS
Okay.
goes out.
This is internal.
Yes,
internal. Correct. Okay,
right.
Yeah. All right, thank you.
Yeah, so DRL, DHSS, they go out once every 6 months. That's a routine survey. But of course, during COVID, there was no once every 6 months. Yeah, so now they are resuming that. They are restarting that. Yeah.
Chen?
Yes. Yeah.
Each time I ask the residents about their care plan,
mm-hmm.
I met with blank stares.
What do you mean?
They have no idea.
Oh.
So if DHS is out there looking at these,
yeah.
The plan I sat in on yesterday, they asked me to sign the form acknowledging that I was there.
Mm-hmm.
The residents should also have to sign that form, should they not?
That's correct. So residents, they have to sign on their care plan sheet. So yes. Mm-hmm.
Yet none that I've talked to ever remember having one. So it looks like I have more work to do.
Well, and then sometimes I do encounter residents that they know they are in this meeting room. They know that they are talking with a whole bunch of people, but they don't necessarily know that, well, this is called my care plan. That might be one of the reasons.
Okay.
Yeah.
But these are the state checks on these things to make sure that they're.
Yeah, they look at the state. They come in, the DRL people, the DRL surveyors. They come in with well, this is not an iPad. They come in with an iPad, and then there's a program on the iPad, and then you have to start from the module 1, and then you click, and then it won't let you go to module 2, and then you get done with module 1, all the questions, and then they will allow you to go to module 2, and so on and so forth. So and then the care planning, the quarterly care planning, that is actually a requirement. If a surveyor does not see 4 care plans in a year, then that's a violation. Your nursing home will get cited for that.
Okay.
Yeah. Teresa? Teresa, I think you are mute. So let's try. Teresa, try to unmute yourself again and see if that works. No, cannot hear you. Cannot hear you. So Teresa, why don't you try to come out of the meeting? If you want, you can come out of the meeting and then come back in and see if that works, because sometimes that happens to me. Or you are writing a comment. That's good too. Okay. So let's see if I can see Teresa's comment. So Teresa, did you send a comment? I don't see Teresa's comment.
Oh, well.
Oh, Teresa, I can hear you now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does the resident have to attend the care plans, or can just the family?
Good question.
And does that?
Yeah, good question. So resident is always encouraged, strongly encouraged to come to the care plan, to voice your concerns, to voice your opinions, and to tell the facility what they don't do well, what they don't do well. Sure, of course. However, resident also has every right to refuse to come to a care plan, just like they have every right to refuse to accept any treatment. Same thing. So they don't have to come. But in the meantime, family members with residents agreement, family members and as well as the ombudsman can be invited to the care plan, but that is only with residents agreement. Okay. Now,
Jen, I have a question real fast. It's on to Jerry's question.
Sure.
You said the resident needs to sign the care plan. So if the resident is not at the care plan meeting, they need to bring the care plan to the resident to sign?
Well, they can, but then they can simply put down resident refuse to attend the care plan.
Okay.
And then resident does not have to sign.
And then that would cover the signature.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, and also, let's say after the care plan, can resident refuse to sign for whatever reason? Sure, they can. They can refuse to sign, no problem. So what's going to happen is that, well, you know, this is your care plan sheet. This is the minutes that we take. So, Mrs. Jones, would you look at the minutes and then sign it? And then if they say, well, Mrs. Jones said, well, you know, I don't like what we are talking about today, I'm not going to sign this. Then the facility staff is going to put down a short line to say that resident attended but yet refused to sign. That's it. Okay, just do that. Okay. Okay. So recap of ombudsman protocol for visitation during COVID-19. Well, actually, ombudsman protocol is not out yet. It will be out probably by the end of today. Okay. So like I said yesterday, we have the new Department of Health and Senior Services visitation guidelines. So they just rolled that out yesterday, and then you will actually receive a copy of that in your email, okay? But in the meantime, that new state guidelines, it is to mirror and to reflect the federal guidelines that was rolled out on March the 10th. Okay, and then so March the 10th, we have the new federal guidelines about nursing home visitations, and then yesterday was what 25th. March the 25th, 15 days later, finally the state Department of Health and Senior Services rolled out our own guideline for the state to mirror the federal guidelines. And then with that, now the ombudsman program will have our own guideline about the new protocol about the visit. But that's basically the same thing that we've mentioned, we've discussed it before. Don't do an unannounced visits anymore, or until further notice. Right now, just make a plan about the visits, and also wear your masks, and then don't ever take off your masks in a nursing home. Okay, just wear your mask, and then moving on, 6 feet apart and all that good stuff that we've talked about. Okay, and if you need more PPEs, let me know, and then we'll schedule a time. If not, I'm not in the office all the time. We'll schedule a time. I'll get you guys more PPEs. Okay, so ombudsman protocol. Okay, and then question: surgeon may require you to wear gloves and gowns. Okay, so always masks, and then you don't necessarily have to have gowns and gloves. That would be your personal kind of decision, whatever you feel comfortable with. And also don't forget your hand sanitizers. You always bring hand sanitizers. Okay, so we are not going to talk about all of these. Oh, and one thing that in the new guidance that they used to allow nursing homes. Well, if you have a COVID breakout, then you will actually lock down again. You will shut down the visitation. You cannot let them visit. It's no longer the case. Okay, so if they have a breakout, now keep in mind, breakout, if you have one person, if you have 2 people that have COVID in the facility, it is also defined as a breakout, even though that's just 1 or 2 people. Okay, it is still defined breakout. So if you have a COVID case or COVID cases in your facility, what you need to do, you have to immediately do a testing for everyone, every resident, every staff member in the facility. And then once after that procedure, you determine where is the problematic area. Maybe the problematic area is the second floor. That the second floor is the one with COVID, and then first floor and third, fourth floors, they don't have COVID. Then the nursing home is allowed to only shut down the second floor. The second floor will become the isolation floor. But then the first, third, and fourth will still remain open. Okay, that is actually the new guidance. Okay, so they can. So now, of course, if the cases are spread out, and then you have a problematic area everywhere, then that's a different story. Then they need to shut down the entire. They need to just shut down the visitation part for 2 weeks. That's and that's the guideline. But then after that, they need to open again. Okay. So ombudsman protocol, that is what I was talking about. Ombudsman protocol will come out today, but they promised us it's gonna come out by the end of today. So you guys will receive a copy of that. So hold on. So there is one thing. What to do before visit? Evaluate personal health, and then review guidance of PPE, and then review take a copy of the new guidance and CMS visitation guidance. Okay. So wear your mask. Ombudsman protocol, that's put on disposable. Remember, disposable medical masks. Okay. And complete a COVID screening with the okay. So what should you take with you inside a facility? We used to, you know, bring our bag with you know, our notebook, our pen, or whatever. Just so make it as little as possible. You need your pen, you need your little notebook, and you need, you know, your wipes, you need your hand sanitizer, you need to put another couple extra masks in your bag. That's it. That's all you're gonna bring, and then don't bring other things in. Okay. So. Okay, 6 feet apart, and the PPE guidance, we all go through that. And then is it okay to touch the front of your mask? No, the answer is no, don't touch. And then so reusing surgical mask, no, don't do that. And okay, so that's good. We are done with today's material. So now another 15 minutes. Questions? Anything? Thoughts? Ideas? Whatever. Sure.
Question about food. You want to do that now or later?
Sure.
Residents are concerned about the lack of variety in the menus.
Mm-hmm.
The response given by the staff is that the menus actually are determined by Cisco, their food supplier.
Mm-hmm.
So they're allowed very little flexibility in-house.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that.
Okay. So nursing home food is always a big issue. And then just right off the bat, if I go to a nursing home, I would hate their food myself. Okay.
Well,
so
I wouldn't either. Yeah.
So
well, no, it's horrible.
Yeah. So Jerry, I think Gina also has something to say about the same issue, and let's.
Okay.
No, I was just going to say number one issue. It's the number one. That and the coffee not being hot.
Yes.
Number one issue of everybody.
Yes, very much so. So so then yeah. Now, when there is a question about the food, when there is a question about the you know, variety or the portion, the amount of the food, or when there's a question or complaint about the temperature of the coffee, the nursing home has to respond to give an answer. And no matter, you know, that answer is a good answer or bad answer. Okay. So the answer for the coffee, it might be, well, you know what? We understand you like hot coffee. The problem though is that some of our residents, they cannot hold this thing. They cannot hold this thing steady. So then they might spill. So so we cannot make the coffee too hot. However, if you think your coffee is just warm, it's not hot enough, then we will help you put this in the microwave to kind of heat it up.
Okay.
And I do have a question about that. I know in my nursing home last year, they did not have a microwave in the activity or in the dining room. Evidently a resident got in or something and put metal in or something. Anyway, they deemed that it was not safe to have a microwave in their dining room on both levels. So
Yeah.
So of course, because that's the first thing I would say to a resident, put your cup, you know, can you ask the staff to put the cup in the microwave? Well, they don't have a microwave.
Well, then they really need to have need to buy another couple more microwaves. That's because I don't understand. Microwave is not really that expensive, and then I'm pretty sure the staff lounge has a microwave, or has more than just one microwave. I mean, you know, Creve Coeur Manor, it is not a small facility. So they need to buy more microwaves and then of course there's another layer of the concerns that would be, well, you know, we understand you want to heat up your coffee, but for you know, resident A, B, C, you three are fine, but for the resident D and E, these two, however, there might be a problem because again, you don't know how, you know, people lose their memories. They don't really know how to operate a microwave, or they make it too hot, and because you know, burning coffee, burning popcorns, it is every day. That, you know, that happens every day. So they might need to have a staff assist with heating up coffee. But now, to say that, well, you know, we don't have microwave, or we don't have enough microwave, or, you know, 100 residents are sharing one microwave, that is never a sufficient answer. And the state can actually cite them on that. And because that's just ridiculous. That's just not a good thing. And then and then I'll come back to Jerry's food. But in the meantime, I want to make sure that June, I will comment on the elevator thing. June put a question in the chat box about the elevator. I will comment on that. So Jerry's food question. So now, they, like I said earlier, they have to provide an answer in response to residents' complaints or questions. Now, we don't have to like that answer, but we do need to see they actually respond. We do need to have their answer. And the answer, if the answer is, well, you know, our contractor Cisco, or, you know, or US Food or whatever, they just don't have enough variety. Well, nursing home can provide that kind of answer, but I'm sure the surveyors, they are not gonna like that. Okay, so the surveyors can actually cite them on that because, well, you know, this particular food provider, they don't have enough varieties to provide. Why didn't you choose, or why didn't you dissolve your contract and then contract with another food suppliers? So DRL, they will cite them on this. Now, that being said, let's go to another issue about the food. So it's a different story. Let's say if someone is in need of mechanical food, if someone's in need of pureed food, or someone is you know, they have to have low sodium diet and whatnot, that's a different issue. That's because that's medical, that's a doctor's order. However, if we are just talking about, well, you know, just the food in general, then the kitchen or the dietitian staff, they have to provide their monthly menu. Okay, and then the end of March, right, like right now, they have to create their menu for the entire April, and then they're gonna have to give out that information, that sheet, just like their activity calendar, to the resident at the end of this month or at the beginning of the next month, so that everyone knows what's to come. Okay.
Okay, and that's required that they post that in advance.
Yes. It cannot be, oh, the end of this month I'm giving out the menu. No. So I'm giving out the menu of March. No. The end of this March, you are gonna give out April or the beginning of April. Okay. Now, if they say, well, you know what, we have 100 residents in this facility, and every time we make that 100 copies of the menu, only 20 people actually are using it or are looking at it. The other 80, they are a waste. Fine, no problem. Then guess what? Then you're gonna make a 25 copies, and then you're gonna put this in the dining room. You're gonna put this in the front desk for residents to have access of a copy of their menu. Okay, so now it's not a problem when residents don't want it. It will become a problem when residents don't have access to the menu. Okay, that's a problem. So now, you don't have to make a copy, make 100 copies of this thing and then waste all 80 pages. No, you don't have to do that. But you have to make sure, and by you I don't mean you, Jerry, I mean the nursing home. They have to make sure that residents, when they want the information, they have the access to the information. Okay, so on that, let's say go to the variety. Well, every time, every month you are providing dinner. You're providing 10 dinner that's all Chinese, and then another 10 dinner is all burgers. I don't see variety. I hate Chinese. I hate burgers. So then that might be true. So then what a nursing home, by regulation, they have to every day, they have to have those a la carte menu. Okay, a la carte items. And what are they? There's no specific regulation about it, but you have to have other choices. So our a la carte every day is a cheeseburger, a chef salad, and
peanut butter and jelly sandwich,
or that.
Yes.
Which and they cannot have just one item though. Okay.
Well, but then they cut off. One of them has cut off cheeseburgers in the past because too many people opted for cheeseburgers rather than the entree, and they again said, "Well, Sysco didn't give us enough cheeseburgers." And I'm like, really?
Actually,
that's insane.
No, I think that's nonsense, because I think most likely is that they realize that, well, cheeseburgers, it costs more than peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Therefore, they have this much budget rather than this much for the food. So therefore, they ask Sysco to just give this many cheeseburgers. So that's the thing. I don't think that's the Sysco. Well, they're a big company. They're a huge company. So I don't think Sysco only offers us these varieties. I don't think that's true. I think
the response they give the residents is that that is the menu that Sysco offers them, and it's within state guidelines.
No, that's, if they think that they are abiding by the state guidelines, then Jerry, you need to encourage your residents to call the hotline for the surveyors to come in to look at the menu and let them decide if this actually is a citation or not.
Or talk to the administrator and just tell them that you know what the guidelines are. You know what the
it's the party's over, guys. I know better now, so let's go. But the one guy's already hiding from me, so I'll track him down.
Yes. Okay, so sure. So then I'm gonna go to June's comment, and then so June, she said her concern is that about using the elevator. So the facility has 6 floors. That's Northview Village, and the elevators are usually crowded. Okay, that's actually a huge problem with Northview Village. And in fact, long time ago, when I was a medical social worker for a residential care facility, I had some residents in Northview Village, and at that time, I already talked to them, not as an ombudsman. I already talked to the administrator back then, and back then that was a woman. I don't think she was there anymore, but I talked to her about your elevator is always very slow, always very crowded. And are you guys thinking to do it to fix the problem? And the answer I got from her is no, they are not gonna try to fix the problem. And here's why: because that's an old DePaul Hospital building, and the structure wise, that's how it is. So they don't have money to do a reconstruction, or they don't have the money to remodel this entire thing. So that's how many elevators they got, and that's it. It's an old building. So my thing is this: well, while I understand it's an old building and it is whatnot, whatever the elevator is slow and you cannot change the structure of the building. However, you can change how to operate your building, or how to operate that people to take the elevator. So for example, you're gonna, as an administrator, if I were the administrator, then I'm gonna put out a policy. I'm gonna say that if you are a staff person, unless you have a medication cart that you are pushing, then you are not to take the elevator, unless you can show me your doctor's note to say that you have bad knees, you have bad hips, and you must take the elevator. Unless that's the case, you, as a staff person, you are not taking the elevator. Okay, and then our elevators are for the residents. Residents are always the priority. So I understand there's a limitation of this old building structure. I understand that, but there is also a way to accommodate that old building structure. And that's, when you cannot change the building, then you can change the way that people operate. Okay, so that the residents and the guests of the nursing home, they don't have to wait for such a long time for the elevators. Okay, so June, I know that you can hear me, but oh, I just realized that. I know that you can hear me, but if you need me to elaborate on this a little bit more, no problem. Give me a call, okay? And I'm gonna. So that's, I put a note in the chat box. That is my cell number, which I'm sure June you've already got it. But just in case, that's my cell number there, 314-517-6992. And that if you still need to talk a little bit more about the elevator issue, give me a call and then we can talk a little bit more. Okay, so we are at 12 o'clock. Anyone last, thank you, June. Any one last question that I can answer for you guys? No? No, everyone's good. Okay, wonderful. So I want to thank you everyone for bearing with me for 2 hours. I hope I didn't bore you too much. And
You did.
Oh, thank you, Jerry. So
I couldn't let you go without that.
Good. Well, nor do I want you to do that. So let me go without that. So you got my email, you got my number. You got any questions? You got any concerns? Anything that I did not explain well today? Let me know, and then we can talk. Okay. Good. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And it's Friday. I hope that you guys have a wonderful weekend and still be safe out there. Okay.
Thanks, Chen. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Bye-bye.